Lift your voice wherever you are and begin to engage with faith. Prayer is not noise. Prayer is alignment. When a man or woman prays with understanding, heaven responds with precision. Eternal Father, we thank you. You are the God of seasons, the one who changes times and destinies. You are the lifter of men, the restorer of hope, the giver of direction. Tonight we acknowledge that no life advances by chance. Growth is intentional, progress is spiritual, and elevation is authorized by you. Lord, as this prayer goes forth on this appointed Thursday, let it mark the end of stagnation. Every cycle of delay, every invisible ceiling, every resistance that has mocked effort and diligence, by your mercy, let it bow now. We declare that this is not just another day, this is a transition point. Father, your word declares that you open doors no man can shut. By that authority, we ask, let every door assigned to the next level of our lives be opened now. Doors of clarity, doors of favor, doors of access, doors of speed. Where effort has failed, let grace speak. Alignment with divine timing and seasons is one of the most misunderstood yet most powerful principles of spiritual advancement. Many people assume that progress is only a function of effort, intelligence, or persistence. But there is a higher law that governs lifting and transition. A man can labor sincerely and still struggle if his actions are disconnected from God's timing. This is why prayer is not merely asking for things. It is submitting your life to the calendar of heaven. When alignment happens, speed replaces struggle and results replace frustration. Every season carries an instruction. There are seasons for preparation, seasons for planting, seasons for waiting, and seasons for manifestation. Problems begin when people try to harvest in a planting season or rest in a season that demands movement. In divine alignment, God does not just tell you what to do, he tells you when to do it. Timing gives value to action. The same decision made outside God's time can bring loss, but made within his time can bring lifting. Many delays in life are not satanic attacks. They are signs of misalignment. Heaven is not slow and God is not careless. When things seem stuck, it often means the soul is out of sync with divine order. Prayer brings recalibration. It resets the heart, corrects the mind, and brings the spirit back into harmony with God's agenda. When a person prays with sincerity, they are saying, Lord, remove me from my own timetable and align me with yours. There are seasons when God hides you, not because he wants to punish you, but because exposure would destroy you. There are times when silence is protection and delay is mercy. Alignment helps you discern these moments so you don't fight what God is using to prepare you. Impatience can push a person into doors they are not equipped to handle. Divine timing ensures that when the door opens, you have the stature, wisdom, and discipline to remain there. Alignment also deals with obedience. God rarely reveals the full picture at once. He reveals steps. Many people want the next level without honoring the current instruction. But seasons change only when obedience is complete. Prayer softens the heart so that obedience becomes a joy, not a burden. When alignment is restored, instructions that once felt heavy become clear and doable. Another aspect of alignment is sensitivity. When a person is aligned, they recognize when a season has ended. They know when to let go, when to move on, and when to stay still. Holding on to expired seasons can delay entrance into new ones. Through prayer, God grants discernment to release what no longer fits the future he is unfolding. Alignment gives courage to leave comfort zones and faith to embrace transitions. Divine seasons are also connected to people. There are relationships assigned to different phases of your journey. Some are for preparation, some for growth, some for elevation. Alignment helps you recognize when certain connections must change so that destiny can advance. Prayer purifies relationships, removes unhealthy attachments, and positions you among those who carry the grace for where you are going. When alignment with divine timing takes place, frustration loses its power. You stop comparing your journey with others because you understand that everyone has a unique season. Comparison is often the fruit of misalignment. Prayer restores contentment, not as passivity, but as confidence that God is at work, even when the process is quiet. In alignment, even adversity becomes productive. Trials are no longer wasted. They become tools of refinement. You begin to see challenges as part of the season, not as proof of abandonment. Prayer gives the grace to endure necessary processes without bitterness. It teaches patience that is active, hopeful, and full of expectation. Ultimately, alignment with divine timing positions a person for effortless lifting. When the season changes, doors open naturally, helpers appear unexpectedly, and progress accelerates without manipulation. What others struggle to force happens smoothly because heaven is backing the move. This is the power of alignment, being at the right place, doing the right thing at the right time with God's approval. This is why prayer is essential. It is the altar where seasons are discerned and destinies are synchronized with God. When alignment is restored, the next level is no longer a distant hope. It becomes an unfolding reality, released at the appointed time. Breaking limitations and inherited patterns is a critical dimension of spiritual advancement, because no one rises only by desire. People rise by overcoming what resists their growth. Many individuals pray for the next level without realizing that unseen limitations are quietly negotiating against their progress. These limitations are not always obvious sins or visible failures. Often they are patterns, ways of thinking, reacting, believing, and living that were learned, inherited, or absorbed over time. Until these patterns are confronted and broken, effort alone will only produce temporary movement, not lasting elevation. Inherited patterns can come through family histories, environments, and repeated exposures. A person may love God sincerely, yet unknowingly operate under mindsets that were transferred through generations. Fear of success, cycles of financial struggle, emotional instability, or repeated relationship breakdowns. These patterns are powerful because they feel normal. What has been repeated long enough begins to feel inevitable. Prayer is the force that challenges inevitability. It introduces divine interruption into what looks like an unchangeable cycle. Breaking limitations begins with light. You cannot break what you cannot see. Many people fight symptoms instead of roots. They rebuke failure, but they do not address the belief systems that produce it. They resist stagnation, but they do not confront the comfort zones that sustain it. In prayer, God exposes the foundations of limitation. He reveals why certain doors keep closing and why progress keeps stopping at the same point. Revelation is mercy because it gives direction to warfare. Limitations also exist in the soul. Past disappointments, betrayals, and repeated failures can create internal boundaries that say, this is as far as you can go. Over time, a person may stop expecting more, not because God has changed, but because hope has been wounded. Prayer heals the soul by restoring the courage to believe again. When inner limitations are broken, Outer doors respond quickly. There are also spoken limitations, words declared in anger, fear, or ignorance. Statements like people like us don't succeed, or this is how our family is, or nothing ever works for me, are not harmless expressions. They are agreements with limitation. Prayer gives authority to break ungodly agreements and replace them with truth. When the mouth is realigned, the future begins to change. Breaking patterns requires persistence. Some limitations resist once, but collapse under sustained spiritual pressure. This is why prayer must be consistent, not casual. Patterns that took years to form may not dissolve in a moment, but they will weaken when confronted by truth, discipline, and faith. Every time you pray with understanding, you weaken the grip of the past on your future. Another dimension of limitation is fear. Fear of change, fear of failure, fear of responsibility. Many people unconsciously sabotage opportunities because the next level demands more accountability. Prayer confronts fear by reminding the heart that growth is supported by grace. God never calls a person to a level without supplying the strength to survive there. When fear is broken, movement becomes natural. Breaking inherited patterns also involves choice. Divine help does not remove human responsibility. Prayer empowers decision making. It strengthens the will to say no to familiar cycles and yes to new disciplines. When a person begins to make different choices consistently, patterns lose their authority. Transformation becomes visible, not just spiritual. As limitations break, identity is restored. A person no longer defines themselves by history, but by destiny. The past stops acting as a ceiling and becomes a testimony. Prayer shifts perspective so that what once explained your struggle becomes evidence of God's power in your life. When limitations and inherited patterns are broken, the next level is no longer intimidating. It feels deserved, not by merit, but by alignment with God's purpose. Progress becomes sustainable because the root issues have been addressed. This is why prayer is not escape, it is engagement. It confronts what has held you down and releases you into what God has prepared. Light, revelation, and spiritual understanding are the foundation of true advancement, because no one rises beyond what they understand. Many people are sincere, prayerful, and hardworking, yet remain stuck because they are operating with limited perception. In the realm of the spirit, darkness is not always evil activity. Darkness is often ignorance. Where there is no light, people stumble, repeat mistakes, and misinterpret seasons. Prayer is the gateway through which light is released, and when light comes, direction becomes clear. Revelation is the ability to see accurately. It is not merely information, it is insight given by God that brings alignment between truth and action. A person can have access to knowledge and still lack understanding. Understanding is what connects what you know to how you live. Without it, effort becomes scattered and energy is wasted on things that do not matter. When prayer releases revelation, focus is restored. You begin to invest your time, strength, and resources in what truly produces growth. Spiritual understanding also exposes causes. Many people deal with effects while remaining blind to roots. They pray against confusion, but do not understand why confusion exists. They pray for breakthrough without understanding the systems that govern increase. Light reveals patterns, principles, and laws that operate in life and destiny. When these are understood, progress becomes predictable, not accidental. Prayer does not remove the need for understanding, it produces it. One of the greatest dangers in life is movement without light. A person can be busy yet blind. Activity without revelation often leads to frustration because the energy is real, but the direction is wrong. In prayer, God slows a person down enough to correct direction. Sometimes the breakthrough is not more effort, but better vision. When understanding is restored, small actions produce great results. Revelation also brings discernment. Discernment is the ability to distinguish between what is good and what is God. Not every opportunity is an assignment, and not every open door is meant to be entered. Without light, people make costly decisions driven by pressure or emotion. Prayer sharpens spiritual senses so that choices are made from wisdom, not urgency. Discernment protects destiny from unnecessary losses. Spiritual understanding helps a person interpret seasons correctly. Some seasons require patience, others require boldness. Without revelation, people misread these moments. They may fight a season that requires endurance, or relax in a season that requires action. Prayer brings clarity about what is demanded now. When a person understands the season they are in, frustration reduces and obedience becomes easier. Light also heals. Many inner struggles persist because they are misunderstood. A person may label themselves weak or unspiritual when the real issue is unhealed wounds or unresolved questions. Revelation brings truth that heals identity. It shows a person who they are in God's plan, not who their pain says they are. When identity is healed, confidence is restored and progress accelerates. Another power of revelation is that it shortens journeys. What takes others years of trial and error can be achieved in moments of insight. When God reveals a principle, it saves time. This is why prayer is not a waste of productivity. It is an investment in accuracy. Light helps you avoid unnecessary battles and focus on what truly matters. Spiritual understanding also deepens authority. When you understand how things work, you speak with confidence. Your prayers become specific, your declarations become bold, and your actions become decisive. Authority grows where understanding is strong. Confusion weakens authority, but revelation strengthens it. As light increases, fear decreases. Many fears are the product of uncertainty. When you do not understand what is happening or where you are going, anxiety grows. Revelation replaces fear with assurance. Even when the path is challenging, understanding gives peace because you know why the process exists and where it leads. Light, revelation, and spiritual understanding unlock the next level by making destiny visible. You stop guessing and start moving with intention. Prayer becomes less about desperation and more about partnership with God. When understanding is released, life is no longer random. It becomes ordered, purposeful, and progressive. This is the power of light. It turns waiting into preparation and movement into meaningful advancement. The authority of prayer and spoken declarations is central to spiritual advancement because words are not neutral, they are carriers of power. In the spiritual realm, silence does not mean inactivity, and speech does not mean noise. When prayer is aligned with truth and understanding, it becomes a legal instrument that authorizes heaven's intervention in human affairs. Many people pray emotionally, but authority is released when prayer is intentional, rooted in conviction, and expressed through faith-filled declarations. Prayer is more than requesting, it is enforcing what God has already established. When a person understands this, their posture in prayer changes. They no longer beg as victims of circumstances. They speak as participants in God's purposes. Authority flows from identity. When you know who you are and who God is, your words carry weight. Prayer spoken from uncertainty is weak, but prayer spoken from conviction reshapes reality. Spoken declarations matter because life responds to voice. Throughout life, outcomes often align with dominant confessions. What is consistently spoken begins to frame expectation, behavior, and atmosphere. Many people unknowingly authorize limitation by repeating words of fear, defeat, and doubt. Prayer retrains the mouth. It replaces careless speech with deliberate declarations that align with God's intent. When the mouth changes, direction changes. Authority in prayer does not come from volume or repetition. It comes from alignment. Words spoken in harmony with divine truth carry force. This is why understanding is crucial. When you declare what you do not understand, it becomes ritual. But when declarations are backed by revelation, they become commands. Prayer brings the heart into agreement with God so that the mouth can speak accurately. Spoken declarations also confront resistance. Many challenges persist not because God is unwilling, but because there has been no confrontation. Some situations require persistence in declaring truth until opposition yields. This is not arrogance, it is consistency. Authority grows as faith is exercised. Each declaration strengthens confidence and weakens doubt. Over time, what once felt impossible begins to respond. Another dimension of authority is consistency. A single prayer may initiate change, but sustained declarations establish it. Patterns are broken when truth is spoken repeatedly. This is why prayer must be a lifestyle, not an emergency response. When declarations become habitual, they shape thinking, influence decisions, and create an atmosphere that supports growth. Spoken words also carry creative power. Declarations are not only reactive, they are prophetic. They speak into the future. When you declare what God has promised, you are preparing the ground for manifestation. This aligns the heart to expect results. Expectation is a powerful force. It positions a person to recognize opportunities when they appear. Prayer builds expectation by constantly reminding the soul of what is possible. Authority in prayer also demands responsibility. Words must align with actions. Declaring progress while living in contradiction weakens authority. Prayer brings the grace to live what is spoken. When integrity supports declarations, power increases. The Spirit responds to consistency between speech and lifestyle. Another aspect of spoken authority is peace. When a person learns to declare truth, inner storms calm. Fear loses its grip because the mind is anchored in what is being spoken. Prayer becomes a tool for emotional regulation as much as spiritual warfare. Declarations stabilize the heart in uncertain times. As authority in prayer grows, confidence replaces hesitation. You begin to approach life with boldness, not recklessness, but assurance. Decisions are made with clarity because the inner voice has been trained by truth. Prayer shapes this inner dialogue so that doubt no longer dominates. The authority of prayer and spoken declarations unlocks the next level by changing who leads your life. Circumstances no longer dictate outcomes, truth does. When a person learns to pray and declare with authority, life responds. Doors open, resistance weakens, and progress becomes intentional. This is not magic, it is alignment. When prayer is spoken with understanding, faith, and consistency, it becomes a force that moves destiny forward. Restoration of strength, focus, and purpose is essential for advancement because many people do not fail due to lack of opportunity. They fail due to exhaustion of the inner man. Life has a way of draining strength quietly. Prolonged waiting, repeated disappointments, unfulfilled expectations, and constant pressure can weaken resolve over time. A person may still be standing physically while being worn down spiritually and emotionally. Prayer is the channel through which God restores what has been depleted and realigns the soul to its original assignment. Strength is not only physical energy, it is the ability to continue with clarity and consistency. Many people are tired not because they are doing too much, but because they are doing too much without renewal. When strength fades, focus scatters, decisions become harder, discipline weakens, and motivation declines. Prayer brings renewal by reconnecting a person to the source of life. It reminds the soul that strength does not originate from circumstances, but from God. Restoration begins with honesty. In prayer, a person acknowledges weakness without shame. This is not defeat, it is wisdom. Denial prolongs exhaustion, but surrender invites renewal. When weakness is presented before God, grace flows freely. Strength is restored not as sudden excitement, but as steady endurance. You find the capacity to rise again, to stay consistent, and to move forward without forcing yourself. Focus is another casualty of prolonged pressure. When life overwhelms the mind, distractions multiply. A person may be busy yet unproductive because attention is divided. Prayer recenters focus by silencing unnecessary noise. It helps distinguish between what is urgent and what is important. Many breakthroughs are delayed not because of opposition, but because focus has been misplaced. When focus is restored, effort becomes efficient and progress becomes visible. Purpose also requires restoration. Over time, people can lose sight of why they started. What was once driven by conviction can slowly become driven by survival. When purpose fades, actions lose meaning. Prayer reconnects the heart to original intent. It reminds a person that their life is more than reactions to problems. It is a response to calling. When purpose is restored, passion returns naturally. Restoration is often gradual. God rebuilds the inner man layer by layer. Prayer sustains this process by providing daily reinforcement. Each moment of communion strengthens resolve and renews perspective. Small doses of restoration, applied consistently, produce lasting stability. This is how burnout is prevented and longevity is secured. Another dimension of restoration is healing from disappointment. Unmet expectations can damage confidence and dull enthusiasm. A person may continue outwardly while inwardly withdrawing. Prayer heals these wounds by reframing experiences. What once felt like failure begins to appear as preparation. When interpretation changes, emotional weight lifts. Strength returns because hope has been restored. Restored focus also brings discipline. Discipline is not punishment, it is alignment. When purpose is clear, discipline becomes easier because actions serve a meaningful goal. Prayer reinforces this alignment. It strengthens the will to say no to distractions and yes to growth. Focused individuals advance faster because their energy is not wasted. Purpose gives direction to strength. Without purpose, strength can be misused or drained on irrelevant pursuits. Prayer ensures that renewed strength is invested wisely. It aligns energy with destiny. This prevents frustration that comes from working hard without fulfillment. As strength, focus, and purpose are restored, confidence rises. A person begins to trust themselves again. They approach responsibilities with calm assurance rather than anxiety. Prayer stabilizes emotions. so that decisions are made from clarity, not pressure. This inner stability is essential for the next level, where demands increase and distractions multiply. Restoration prepares a person to carry greater responsibility. The next level requires not just ability, but endurance. Prayer equips the inner man to sustain growth without collapse. When strength is renewed, focus is sharpened, and purpose is clarified, advancement becomes natural. Progress no longer feels forced, it feels aligned. This is the quiet power of restoration. It rebuilds from within so that elevation is sustainable and meaningful. Unlocking doors prepared by God is a profound spiritual reality, because advancement is not only about effort, it is about access. There are dimensions of life that skill alone cannot enter, levels of influence that hard work alone cannot reach, and opportunities that remain invisible until God opens them. Many people struggle not because they lack ability, but because they are standing before doors they were never meant to force. Prayer is the key that aligns a person with the doors God has already prepared. Divine doors are different from human opportunities. Human opportunities are often competitive, stressful, and uncertain. Divine doors, however, come with peace, clarity, and confirmation. When God opens a door, there is alignment between capacity and opportunity. Prayer positions the heart to recognize these doors so that destiny is not delayed by hesitation or fear. Prepared doors exist because God walks ahead of time. Before a person arrives at the next level, provision, connections, and assignments are already in place. The challenge is not whether the door exists, but whether the person is ready to access it. Prayer prepares the individual internally so that when the door opens, they can walk through with confidence and wisdom. Many doors remain closed not as punishment, but as protection. Entering prematurely can cause damage. Prayer cultivates patience so that waiting does not become frustration. It trains the heart to trust divine timing. When readiness meets opportunity, doors open naturally. What once felt locked responds effortlessly to alignment. Unlocking divine doors also involves discernment. Not every open door is a God door. Some doors lead to distraction, compromise, or unnecessary struggle. Prayer sharpens discernment so that a person can distinguish between doors that look attractive and doors that are assigned. Discernment protects energy and focus, ensuring that progress is meaningful and sustainable. Another aspect of unlocking doors is favor. Favor is access granted beyond qualification. It does not cancel preparation, but it accelerates recognition. Prayer positions a person in humility so that favor can rest without producing pride. When favor is active, resistance weakens, conversations change, decisions shift, and pathways open unexpectedly. Prepared doors often require courage. Walking into a new level can be intimidating. Fear of responsibility or fear of failure can cause hesitation. Prayer strengthens courage by reminding the heart that God goes before his people. When confidence is rooted in God, fear loses its authority. Courage allows a person to step into new territory without being paralyzed by doubt. Unlocking doors also involves alignment with people. Many doors are accessed through relationships. Prayer orchestrates divine connections, aligning hearts and intentions. When relationships are divinely aligned, collaboration becomes productive rather than draining. Prayer removes the anxiety of networking and replaces it with purposeful connection. Prepared doors bring increase in responsibility. Advancement is not only about privilege, it is about stewardship. Prayer prepares the heart to handle increased demands with grace. When responsibility is embraced rather than feared, doors remain open longer. Faithfulness sustains access. Another dimension of unlocking doors is obedience. Sometimes the key to a door is a simple instruction. Prayer sensitizes the heart to these instructions. Obedience may not always make sense logically, but it produces results spiritually. When obedience is practiced consistently, doors respond. As doors unlock, momentum builds, progress accelerates, not because effort has increased, but because alignment has been achieved. Prayer ensures that momentum is directed, not chaotic. It keeps the heart grounded even as elevation occurs. Unlocking doors prepared by God is about partnership. God prepares the doors. Prayer prepares the person. When the two meet, advancement becomes inevitable. The next level stops being a distant desire and becomes an open pathway. This is the beauty of divine access. What God has prepared cannot be denied when the right key is applied. Grace for the next level of impact and dominion is essential, because elevation without grace leads to pressure, and influence without divine backing leads to burnout. Many people desire the next level, but few understand that every new level demands a fresh measure of grace. What sustained you yesterday may not be sufficient for tomorrow. Prayer is the channel through which God releases the capacity to function effectively in expanded territory. Grace is not merely unmerited favor, it is divine enablement. It is the empowerment to do what would otherwise be impossible with human strength alone. As impact increases, expectations multiply. Without increased grace, the weight of responsibility becomes overwhelming. Prayer ensures that capacity grows alongside assignment. When grace is sufficient, pressure loses its power to crush. The next level of impact often involves greater visibility. Visibility attracts both influence and opposition. Without grace, attention can become a burden. Prayer stabilizes the heart so that recognition does not distort identity. Grace keeps a person grounded, reminding them that elevation is stewardship, not entitlement. When humility is preserved, dominion becomes sustainable. Dominion is the ability to influence outcomes consistently. It is not control through force, but authority through alignment. True dominion flows from intimacy with God. Prayer strengthens this intimacy, ensuring that influence remains anchored in truth. When dominion is divorced from prayer, it becomes fragile. But when grace fuels dominion, authority increases without arrogance. Grace for the next level also involves wisdom. Impact without wisdom creates chaos. As reach expands, decisions carry greater consequences. Prayer releases clarity in decision making. It sharpens judgment and reduces costly mistakes. Wisdom ensures that influence produces life, not confusion. Another dimension of grace is resilience. Higher levels bring higher resistance. Challenges become more complex and pressures become more intense. Prayer releases grace that strengthens emotional and spiritual endurance. Resilience allows a person to remain effective under stress. When resilience is present, setbacks become lessons rather than defeats. Grace also empowers leadership. As impact grows, people are affected by your choices. Leadership without grace becomes harsh, but leadership with grace becomes transformative. Prayer softens the heart while strengthening resolve. It produces leaders who are firm yet compassionate, decisive yet patient. Grace ensures that influence builds people rather than breaking them. Dominion requires alignment with purpose. Without clarity of purpose, influence can drift into self-promotion. Prayer realigns motives. It purifies intention so that impact remains focused on service rather than self. When purpose is clear, dominion becomes meaningful and fulfilling. Grace also multiplies effectiveness. Actions produce greater results with less strain. This is not laziness. It is efficiency born of alignment. Prayer positions a person to work smart, not just hard. When grace is active, effort is rewarded disproportionately. This is how impact increases without exhaustion. As grace increases, confidence grows. Not confidence in self alone, but confidence rooted in God's support. This confidence allows a person to take bold steps without fear. Prayer reinforces this assurance, reminding the heart that advancement is supported by divine partnership. The next level of dominion also demands accountability. Influence attracts scrutiny. Prayer develops integrity that withstands examination. Grace empowers consistency between private life and public impact. When integrity is preserved, dominion endures. Grace for the next level transforms desire into capacity. It ensures that impact is not accidental but intentional, not temporary but lasting. Prayer releases this grace so that when elevation comes, the soul is ready. With grace, the next level is not something to survive, it is something to steward. This is the final key to sustained advancement. Grace that carries, governs, and multiplies impact with peace and authority. As we come to the close of this moment of prayer and reflection, it is important to understand that the next level is not a mystery, nor is it reserved for a select few. Advancement is the result of alignment with divine timing, freedom from limitations, clarity of understanding, authority in prayer, inner restoration, access to prepared doors, and grace for greater impact. When these realities work together, progress becomes inevitable. The next level is not merely a change in position, it is a change in capacity. It is the ability to carry more without losing peace, to handle influence without losing humility, and to move forward without fear. Prayer is the environment where this capacity is built. It reshapes the inner man so that external elevation does not create internal collapse. What God releases outwardly must first be sustained inwardly. This is why prayer is not optional. It is essential. It aligns the heart, sharpens the mind, strengthens the will, and anchors the soul. Through prayer, confusion gives way to clarity, weakness gives way to strength, and hesitation gives way to bold obedience. What once felt locked begins to respond, not because of force, but because of alignment. As you step forward from this point, carry the consciousness that your life is governed by purpose, not chance. Refuse to settle for cycles that no longer serve destiny. Remain sensitive to instruction, disciplined in obedience, and consistent in prayer. Growth may not always be loud, but it is always deliberate. Let this moment mark a transition from waiting to walking, from preparation to manifestation, from prayer to testimony. The next level is not ahead of you, it is opening to you. Walk into it with faith, wisdom, and humility, confident that what God has begun, He is faithful to complete.